members, and welcome to Pop Culture Cult. I'm Sean.
I'm Janice.
And welcome to our breakdown, reaction, review, discussion, all the things that we want to do with Around the House of the Dragon, Episode 8, The Lord of the Tides. If you've not been to one of our reviews, reactions, discussions, breakdowns, things before, we just watched the episode. We are now reacting to what we just saw. We want to watch the episode and then give ourselves a minute to kind of think about what just happened, and then we'll work it out as we talk about it here.
Right.
And sometimes people expect us to be watching the episode along. We are reacting to what we just watched, which is why I started putting down breakdown, because breakdown is something else that we're doing, because we just watched the thing and we're discussing everything that happened.
If you want to watch the show, pay for HBO.
Anyways, so let's start with the start of the episode. Also, if you haven't been here, we meander everywhere. So let's start with the first of the episode with they talk about the 6-year gap that we got from the previous episode when Alicent attacked Rhaenyra in open court.
Right.
And now there's been a 6-year gap to now where we are in this episode. And Lord Corlys has been mortally wounded in battle.
Right.
Or at least that's what it's at
sea.
At sea.
Assuming in battle, but...
we don't see him in this episode, but because of that, there's a cascade of events that lead to Damon? Damon? Look it up. Damon. Corlys's brother saying, I should be the heir, not Luke or Chase.
Right.
And so...
which isn't new. He's been saying that the whole time.
Whole time, yes. He is truth above all else, damn the consequences.
Right.
He is a man after my own heart. But unlike some people, I'm going to get my head cut off from behind because I have eyes in the back of my head. No, because he is so set on his truth, he is so blinded to everything else that's going on around him.
Right.
And so he says that he should be the one who should be the heir. And because he is going to go petition to Viserys and the Hightowers, Rhaenyra is like all of a sudden like, whoa. If they petition and question my son's heir to Driftmark, then they're going to Chase's claim to the Iron Throne.
Right.
Is going to be in question too, right. And so we have to stop this somehow.
Yeah, right. It's all kind of a cascade of, like, it sets a precedence, right? If they go with Vaemon's claim, then Rhaenyra's other sons may not have claim to anything. So
right.
She's got to go kind of defend them again.
We've talked about this throughout the entire season, and they just talked about it in the after thing that they do after each episode. And they said, like, Viserys has been so non-confrontational about anything the entire way that now this is the bed that he has made.
Right.
This is the bed that he has made. Right.
Yeah.
Right. I thought he said laid, which is also kind of true. But because he hasn't wanted to really push against anything, and he wants to be loved so badly that he doesn't want to be confrontational, and that has led to everyone taking their own side throughout this entire process.
Yeah, and trying to push their own advantage or their own agenda without him saying, no, this is how it is, and put his foot down. He's always been like, oh, it's fine. We don't have to worry about this right now or whatever. I just want everybody to hug and get along. And
I get that. I get that he doesn't want to be confrontational, but at some point in time, you have to be. You were picked to be king. So you need to do kingship. Like everybody wants to be king until they have to do king shit, and then they don't want to do it anymore. And even Rhaenyra in this episode goes to him, who Viserys is not in a good way. Like he is dead man walking, or kind of walking,
stumbling and then being carried.
She even says, "I thought I wanted this for so long, but now I don't know."
Right.
And
the burden is heavy.
The burden is heavy, and I just don't know if it's worth it, and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So it's been really interesting. But with Damon coming and pretty much starting the dominoes to start falling that we've all been setting up for so long, for 7 episodes, but for 20 years in the show, all of these pieces are now set, and it's none of the Valerians, it's none of the Hightowers, it's none of the Targaryens, it's none of them that actually do it. It's Damon who is the one who knocks over the first piece, which is just leading to this epicness that is going to be coming forward and stuff.
Yep. So it'll be fun.
Rhaenyra and Damon decide to go to King's Landing, and when they get there, it's very different than when they were there 6 years ago.
Right.
And it has come to be known that Alicent has embraced the Seven.
Right.
The words of the Seven, the 7 gods. The main religion at this point in time,
right,
in Westeros. And so there's a big gaudy 7-pointed star. She's wearing kind of this battle armor dress with a big 7-pointed star necklace that's prominent. It's also very subdued around King's Landing,
right?
And so it's very different than when Rhaenyra and Damon left the last time, and it's pretty obvious that the Hightowers are the ones who are in charge, not Viserys at all.
Right. I mean, when court opens to hear Vaemon's claim, Otto is sitting on the throne.
Right.
And
not even the secondary throne lower on.
No, he's full on sitting on the throne.
Yeah.
And hearing, the claim, and I mean, I guess that is responsibility of the hand, but it's just, it's very nepotistic, if that's the word, that Alicent's dad is the hand, and the one who is sitting on the throne, he is also the one who has pushed Alicent to be kind of who she is. I mean, she was, her and Rhaenyra were friends when they were younger, and this is never where they expected to go. And there's been a couple of times even when Alicent was just kind of leave it alone, let Rhaenyra be, let her kids be, but her dad was always in her ear, and bringing her back over to his. She's very malleable, she's easily
Which is why
manipulated.
She's the perfect foils are the right word. She's the perfect tool for Otto.
Yeah.
And I think Alicent at times recognizes that what she has become, or how her father has put her in this position, but she's there now. She can't get away from it.
Yeah, and I don't even know if she recognizes that it's Otto that's done this to her. I definitely get the feeling she's not happy with where she's at, where her children are, and it was very striking to me. We kind of noticed it, and might have mentioned it last episode, but it was very evident this episode that Rhaenyra is, for the most part, a pretty calm person. She's self-confident, but she's very loving. She loves, some could say, too much. And she loved her first husband enough to, let him go off with his boyfriend, lover, whatever, and go off to be somewhere else. And she loved strong hand, strong, bold,
Lord Strong.
Strong.
Yeah.
a little too much, and now she has 3 kids, and she loves Damon, right? And then Alicent is at this point uh, bitter, resentful,
Right.
and her children, like both of their children, emulate
Yes.
who the
Who
two of
they
them
are. Yeah.
are. Like Rhaenyra's kids, Luke and
I want to say it's Chase, but I don't. Keep talking.
Anyway, they, they're very happy that they're being betrothed to their cousins. Everybody, they're all very happy, and then Allison's kids are just bitter and hateful and spiteful, and they say
Right.
mean things all the time, and and it's like these are the seeds the two of you have sown.
Yeah, and it's very interesting. Like we in the modern world, in the real world, can see that from a distance, but we can't see it within our own children. Right? How we've created these monsters or these good people until they're out onto the world of their own.
Yeah.
And we are watching it over 8 episodes of these two different, factions of the Greens and the Blacks, but specifically it's about nature versus nurture, and what that has turned into.
Yeah.
And how Allison's kids are just dicks.
Yeah, and I don't even think she gets it. Like she knows, because there's the whole scene where Aegon has apparently raped the chambermaid.
Right.
And this is something that apparently has happened before, and she slaps him. She tries to wake him up and chastise him or whatever, and she slaps him, and it's like she's almost like befuddled by the fact that her kids turned out like this, and it's like, you did this.
right. You've it felt very much like Cersei, where she coddled Joffrey.
Yeah.
So much that when Joffrey,
that he turned into this horrible person.
He was a horrible person who turned into even more of a horrible person because his mother was the one who enabled him, and it was the Hand, who was the one who told him to go to bed without his dinner.
Tyrion.
Tywin.
Oh, the dad. Her dad.
Yeah,
oh, okay. Yeah, Tywin did it first, and then Tyrion did it afterwards.
But because for whatever reason, we have to. Let me back up. I love the parallels between what we know from the Game of Thrones series and what we're getting here. This is a great allegory for what happened in that series with the Lannisters and how each of them were raised a little bit differently or shipped off, and how some of them were treated like empowered. Joffrey was empowered because he was the heir apparent. He was the known heir for the longest time, which gave him power to be whoever the douchebag that he was.
Right.
And then in here, because Rhaenyra is the actual heir, because she's loving, and Cersei wasn't really a loving mother. Like, you get that kind of parallel of how everything went, and I really like that they have been doing that. We're getting story points or details or things that kind of parallel what we had before, but it's its own little story.
Yeah, well, and I mean, it's just life, right? I mean, this is, and you can say, Aegon was a terrible. He became king, right?
I think it's the next Aegon.
Oh,
who becomes the one who
Aegon the Conqueror,
once the burns everything.
Yeah.
I think it's the next Aegon. That's the one that's in Game of Thrones that Jaime kills.
Yeah, but they I mean, they're filling in kind of the, like, you have a name and they were a horrible person,
right?
Or they were a good person, and so this is all like kind of
and you could see from the point of view of Game of Thrones, you could see why Robert hates all Valerians, because the Valerians are all corrupt. If you go back to Aemon and Aegon, like, they're corrupt, and it's not because they're true Valerians. Their father was a good person.
Yeah,
Alicent was the one that was the problem, and Rhaenyra was actually the good person. Now she's done some shady things, and her current husband Damon has done some shady things.
Right.
But like,
but it's never black and white. It's always shades of gray, right? But yeah, like if Viserys had, I mean, Viserys raised Rhaenyra, right?
Right.
And she turned out good. So if he'd had more of an opportunity to have a hand in Alicent's kids, they probably could have turned out better.
Yeah.
But by then he was sickly and just didn't care. He'd rather go play with his Legos in his room and let her deal with the kids. And, you know, as we saw several episodes ago, she the crying baby, she hated it. She was like bouncing it up and down and, here, take it away. So that stuff, this is like I said, these are the seeds you have sown, and these are the outcomes of those seeds. They're not nice people.
Absolutely. The petition meeting was they talked about it in the after show thing. There's no tension in this episode until Viserys shows up in the petition hearing, and I mean his walk is powerful and sad and inspiring and heartbreaking all at the same time. But it's not until he tries to get up the steps and the gold cloak tries to help him up the steps, and he's like, "No, I got it myself." And then he leans over, and the crown falls off, and he goes to pick it up, and it's Damon who's the one. So Damon actually, this is the thing I've been talking about with Damon the entire way. Like, Damon is the guy who's willing to do what needs to be done for the right reasons, at least in the right reasons that for him.
Right.
He's a master manipulator, or at least he's tried to be a master manipulator. He's softened over time with kids and an actual proper love that he of a woman that he actually cares for.
Yeah.
But he's always been on his brother's side, even when he was the head of the Gold Cloaks and the King's Watch. Like, he was always doing the things for Viserys, the things that Viserys needed, even though Viserys wouldn't do it.
Right.
And he always fought against the rest of the small council because they were all manipulating, except for Leyland, Lionel Strong. Lionel Strong was a good person.
Yeah.
On the council, but Damon was always the one who was doing things for Viserys and for the kingdom.
Yeah.
He just did things against the prototypical, the way it's supposed to be done.
Well, and he was rocking the boat, right? And that's not what Viserys wanted. He wanted everything to just be calm and easy, and Damon would come in and blah, and Viserys is like, he like stopped hearing what Damon was saying. Like, Damon's like, these people are bad for you, and but he's doing it kind of in a stir in the pot kind of way.
Right.
And Viserys is like, I don't want to hear it.
Stop it. Yeah.
And so he wasn't hearing, it's like the two opposite sides, and they can't hear each other, opposite sides of the spectrum or whatever, and they can't hear each other, even though they're both right.
Right. Yeah, totally.
For each other. They just need to.
I just, my heart melted. I've loved Damon. I've loved what Matt Smith has done with this character, but I just love that it was Damon who was the one to help, not Rhaenyra, not Otto, not Alicent, not anybody else in the room. It was Damon. It was just softens, like, all of his decisions he's done in the past and everything that he's done that I've questioned. That was the point where I was like, no, I was justified in my love of Damon. That's what I would came about. The meeting goes exactly the way you think it is. Vaemon stakes his claim to the absolute truth and calls Rhaenyra's kids bastards in the middle of court.
And her a whore.
And I just love Damon's smile, like, because he stopped himself short from saying it. And Damon just like, say it. And then he says it, and he screams it out, and then he calls her a whore. And then he turns around and he tells Viserys, like, you run your house this way, you don't tell me how to run my house. And then Damon, especially when Viserys went to go stand up and he pulls a dagger out, I'm like, I'm going to have your tongue for that. And then Damon cuts his head off. and his tongue is flapping out, but the top of his head is like laying over there. And Damon's line is just so deadpan, like he can keep his tongue.
Yep. It's right there. He's kept it.
Earlier in the episode, Rhaenys and Rhaenyra had a conversation, and Rhaenyra was trying to keep Valerians on her side, and not on their own, whatever. And Rhaenys was pretty much told her, like, her suggestion was that they betroth their kids to each other,
right,
which is what the kids want. So yay. But Rhaenys was like, I'm going to the Hightowers are about to pull their first play here, and there's nothing we could do about it, and I have to stand on my own.
Yeah.
And she's going to make her own claim. And when we get to the thing before Damon goes on his little rant or whatever, she sides with Rhaenyra and the Targaryens and her grandsons, and it's a surprise that Viserys was there for everybody, including the Hightowers.
Right.
But it was a surprise that Rhaenys decided to go with Rhaenyra, especially because she blames her and Damon for Leonor's death, even though we as the audience know he's not really dead. But that she picked them and picked her grandkids is the move there. And I totally get her point, but that draws a huge line in the sand, and now she's a target.
Yeah. And when they were talking at the Weirwood tree, I was like, Rhaenyra, just tell her he's alive.
Yeah, I wanted to.
Just tell her. Nobody else needs to know, but she, but then it would also have made. I don't know how that would have played, because she turned around and married Damon, but she let him have the life that he really wanted. So I don't know how that would have played, but yeah, like Rhaenys read the room, right? She was like, "No, I have to make my own stand." And then she got in there and started reading the room, and she's like, "This is not going well.
And we
can't have 3 people going for it. We need to have 2 strong, or 1 strong and 1 not so strong, going for it." So
the Strongs and the Targaryens and the variant Valerians. I'll get it out. I'm doing really good on the names, and I struggle with it narrowly. So Viserys asked for a dinner with his family, and his last supper, and Otto's there, Alicent's there, Rhaenyra, Damon, all the kids, Aegon, Aemon, everybody's there, and they bring him in on a litter and set him at the table. And he finally stands up and takes his mask off, and his eye is gone, his whole cheek is gone. He's a walking skeleton that we saw earlier. And he stands up and tells everybody, we are a family. We're supposed to be together on all of these things, and we need to set aside our differences for what's coming. And we need to be a united front. We should be together. We are a family. We're supposed to be together. It doesn't matter. And Rhaenyra takes that cue and offers out an olive branch, and Alicent takes it and offers out an olive branch. And then they have a really good point of, like, maybe there's a possibility that we can fix everything. But the problem is that Alicent has raised her kids so poorly, like we've talked about, that they started poking the bear, or the Strongs, if you want to put it that way, and just started poking at the boys and their upcoming nuptials and all these different things. And it just got got uncomfortable that the Rhaenyra and Damon and all of their side of the family are trying to do the right things. They're trying to smooth everything over. They really
good people and all of that. And
and there's it was a really quick scene, and a lot of people may not talk about it, but I'm one of these sticklers for this kind of sticklers, not the right word. I'm a fiend for this kind of stuff. But when they went to go take Viserys back, because he was really starting to feel the day, and they'll take the litter out, all of them stood up. Aegon, Aemon, Otto, and Alicent sat. The king is leaving the room, and those who actually care for him all stood.
Right.
And the rest of them didn't.
Right.
And it was just like, oh, that's the symbol. That's we got the last episode where the greens were on one side and the blacks were on the other.
Yep.
But here's another one where respect of the person, respect of the guy who is their father and grandfather or grandsire, as he said. But on the other side doesn't, and it was just like, oh, bastards. and then Amon is just gotta poke and finally just here's to our loving and nice and strong cousins, and everybody's like, and he's like, what? No, they're good and they're strong, and which leads to fight amongst the kids at dinner because kids. And Rhaenyra's like, I need to take my kids home, and I'll come back and drag them back to Alicent because they actually feels like they are trying to mend some kind of fence.
Yes, except they have mended fences currently. And Rhaenyra's going to go home. She's going to take the kids home. She's going to come back and find out that her dad is dead. Although maybe she'll find out before she leaves.
Possibly,
and then
yeah.
not.
Possibly.
But as soon as he's dead,
all hell is going to break loose.
Yep.
And the Hightowers, Otto and Alicent specifically, are going to do some things, and they showed that in the trailer. They were openly arresting people in the streets. And so there's some questions about what that could mean and stuff like that. But the final scene is Viserys' death. Petty Constantine, like we've been talking about how good he has been in this show.
Yeah.
His death scene is just so good. But he talks about the prince that is promised, the true threat of the North.
The cold of the North.
The cold of the North or whatever.
Yeah,
and it's all like rambling words, but he's saying it to Alicent thinking that he's saying it to Rhaenyra.
Yeah.
And throughout this episode, they keep trying to give him Milk of the Puppy because... Poppy, sorry.
Milk of the Puppy is
something completely different.
No.
Milk of the Poppy. They've been trying the entire episode to get him to... Because it's
opium.
It's opium. But he refuses it, which allows him to be at the petition and at the dinner, and then Alicent comes in and gives it to him, and he has this ramble, and she picks out all the important words to her, which is Aegon, Prince that is promised. She doesn't hear the true enemy is to the north or anything else.
Well, she doesn't understand what she's hearing because what he's talking about is what he told Rhaenyra.
Right.
And if Rhaenyra was there, she would have understood what he was saying because this was a conversation between a king and his heir.
Right.
Not Alicent. So she honestly has no idea the context of what he's saying.
Yep.
She's just, and she's in it for herself and her kids. So
right.
She's gonna pick out the parts that
she picks out the parts that she wants to hear, and then she also says, "Yes, my king." Like I know, I understand what you're trying to do.
Yeah,
so
I got
it.
And they make a point of, as she's walking out, they show the dagger again.
Yeah.
So that's. We know that the dagger ends up being the one that kills the Night King.
Yeah. And don't at me. I'm sorry. It was always Arya who was going to kill him. She was the only one trained to do it. It makes the most sense. Everybody else was a distraction. Watch all that again. But it's very interesting the way they kind of have set up the series. Some people have complained about the time jumps, and I'm glad because we are getting to the Dance of Dragons, the actual war, the actual Targaryen war.
Right.
But we can't do that without spending time with Rhaenyra and Alicent as young women coming into their own and them having kids and then them raising their kids and having them be good or bad or dicks or whatever you want to put it.
Right.
And now we're to the point where the king is dead. Rhaenyra is the actual heir, but her claim is so finite that the only real thing that is her claim is that the king said it. Well, the king is now dead, and most of court, the small council, most of the Westeros itself, all believe it should be a male heir.
But they all bent the knee to her.
Right, but she even pointed out when they all bent the knee to her that even some of them kind of reluctantly did it. And so if Alicent says Aegon should be the actual proper heir because he's the firstborn son of Viserys,
right,
then many of those lords are going to switch sides because they believe in the old ways.
Right.
And so that whole setup, we have to lay the groundwork to get to that. And I really don't even think we're going to get anything battle-wise in this season.
Yeah.
I really think this is all just kind of to get us ready for the big battle stuff that's going to happen in the next season, and the season after that, and the season after that. So I think that's all we want to talk about with this episode. Anything else you want to talk about?
No.
Damon's ex-horror wife, girlfriend, whatever, and
is doing some one of the maids or something.
Yeah, one of the maids who knew about Aegon's raping of the handmaiden, chambermaiden or whatever, and so there's some plotting there going on too.
Yep.
Like maybe she is technically working for Otto, but she may also be sneaking stuff off to Damon.
Yeah.
So there's some stuff there. So let us know what you thought of this episode, our breakdown of it in the comments down below. Please be nice. That's a requirement around here. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications, and follow us on all the social media stuff. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Links in the description down below. And until next time, cult members, good afternoon, good evening, and good night now.